Welcome back, and in today's video, we're going to talk about the layoffs and how they could be good for the economy, even though it might not seem so on the surface. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So over the past couple months, we've seen Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Disney, Salesforce, Intel, Dell, and many other companies have announced large reductions in their headcount and general cutbacks of non-essential expenses in order to prepare themselves for a slowdown in demand in the future. This has been a large concern for many economists as the rise in interest rates has brought equity prices down and the broader economy to tighten its belt in preparation of a potential recession. At first glance, you may think that the loss of jobs and cost-cutting measures by corporations are negative for the economy. However, I would like to explain why this could be a good thing. Massive layoffs are occurring in several sectors, including big tech companies, due to several reasons. One of these reasons, primarily in big tech companies, is the overhiring and overcompensation of employees. For instance, Alphabet, the parent company of Google and YouTube, has been criticized by TCI Fund Management, a large stakeholder, for increasing its headcount at a 20% CAGR over the past 5 years and providing excessive compensation to its employees. The average compensation at Alphabet is over $290,000, which is much higher than Microsoft's median compensation of around $176,000 and the median compensation of the top 20 technology companies of $117,000. As we can see in these graphs, Alphabet, like many other companies, overhired due to the unprecedented growth seen over the past 2 years due to the constant stimulus and near zero cost of capital. The decision to ramp up hiring and compensation can be seen as reckless and undisciplined, as they are putting at risk the future profits of their shareholders, to whom they are entitled. Nonetheless, this cost management strategy of hiring as much talent as possible and compensating them far above the industry average is unsustainable and can certainly be minimized for more efficiency. Although Alphabet is a prime example of this problem, they are not the only ones with these excessive costs. Right now, we are witnessing the consequences of overhiring by many companies through these large-scale layoffs. Now, what does this mean as a consumer? Well, we want companies to be as efficient as possible to run with the lowest costs. The reason for that is that as the costs of running a business decrease, the costs of consuming a good or service should decrease as well. Although this may not always be the case, as certain companies have large competitive advantages due to their network effects, over time, if profits remain elevated at an unsustainable level, competition will naturally form to take advantage of that and eventually drive prices down, barring any collusion or antitrust violations. Therefore, for the best outcome for consumers and the economy, we must find an accurate equilibrium between a company's costs, whether that's their employees, R&D, CapEx, and its output for society. Otherwise, we will allocate capital to the wrong businesses, leading to shortages and surpluses, eventually poverty, famine, and other shortcomings that free markets aim to solve. Now, I think Alphabet embodies this problem while still delivering significant value to its shareholders. However, it's a widespread issue among many companies, such as Meta, Salesforce, Amazon, and others. These companies are laying off employees to curb costs and run a more efficient business. This should, in turn, increase competition and provide a better product for consumers. Now, moving on to creative destruction and the reallocation of capital. Reallocation of capital to more profitable businesses occurs as businesses cut costs on unprofitable portions of their business and then take that capital and deploy it elsewhere or return it to shareholders. This will drive capital towards each company's strengths, creating long-term value for the companies and the communities involved. Creative destruction, on the other hand, occurs when businesses that cannot sustain themselves in that way through value creation eventually fail. The capital that was being invested in these companies, and therefore wasted because they were failing, is then redirected to more promising businesses elsewhere in the economy. With rising interest rates, the costs of debt-reliant companies are increasing as well, making it harder for them to survive and eventually leading to bankruptcy. This is evident in the current wave of layoffs, as companies attempt to generate free cash flow instead of relying on the debt to run their operations. The combination of inflation and higher interest rates for consumers decreases demand for many products, causing additional difficulties for most companies. If these companies are unable to generate meaningful value for shareholders, their capital will be directed to more profitable ventures. And over the past decade, we have seen an unprecedented time of easy money policies, leading to inefficiencies and exuberant valuations for many companies that cannot support themselves in the current environment of higher cost of capital. With higher terminal borrowing rates and a slowdown in the economy, these companies are forced to lay off employees and cut back on frivolous spending. It's important to remember, though, that lower cost of capital can fuel risky ventures in times of excess savings and increased risk appetites by lenders. But since there is no free market mechanism for determining this rate, we often see periods of exuberance far beyond reality and major busts on the other side in the form of recessions and mass layoffs. Although layoffs and cost cuttings may not seem good, it is a natural reversion to the mean, necessary for proper capital allocation. Another positive that can be seen in this tough time of layoffs and cost cutting is that employees that are laid off from these bloated companies will find their way into smaller organizations, including startups, potentially leading to more competition, innovation, and new products and services. Although this may result in a significant reduction in compensation for these employees, I believe that in the long term, competition will increase, costs will decline, and so on. As we continue to observe more companies laying off large numbers of employees and reducing costs, it's important to keep in mind that it is a necessary evil in a capital allocation system directed by humans, who often make mistakes and are subject to a politically motivated and imperfect cost of capital that the Federal Reserve determines. Now, ultimately, no one wants to see people getting laid off. But in a world where automation and AI are taking jobs away at an exponential rate, we may need to consider what a world with deflation might look like, and what it would do to our labor markets, corporate profits, and retirement accounts. Layoffs may become a common occurrence in a world where fewer workers are needed for both manual and sophisticated jobs. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.